Hey guys, it's Dylana Nova Scott with the company Third Power, and we are with Premier Guitar, and we're doing the show Why I Built This. The biggest inspiration behind the things that we build is surprisingly not about gear, and it's not about sound. So why do I have a gear company and a sound company? It's actually about emotional translation. If an artist can feel it, and they've practiced and developed and honed their craft, then they can express what they feel either through their voice or through their hands. And so I don't care if it's an angry song or a happy song, a love song, a sad song, whatever, if it can reach in and just squeeze your heart in some way, make you think of a memory, your childhood, a love, a new love, even a past love, heartbreak, or euphoria, there's an emotional exchange there. And the best artists, whether you like them or not, are able to dip in and impact the emotions. And so that's actually why I'm in business. I make basically emotional translation devices. And that's in the form of amplifiers. You'll see my big amps here. I have a little one down here on the floor. I'll bring up the props later. But I also make pedals, and I also make guitar pickups. And everything about it is refined such that noise is gone and resolution is there so that the emotional exchange can happen. And sometimes that's in a recording, or sometimes that's on the stage, or it's in a club, or it's at a wedding, or whatever it is, or it's somewhere where people gather and give thanks and praise to whatever it is that they want to do. What are the most unique characteristics about the things that I make and what we do? And I'll share that when Third Power came onto the scene, we came out with a triangle speaker cabinet. And it's kind of in a marketing sense, it's a disruption because everything is rectangular. And here's this company making a triangle. And the interesting thing is, for some, it's peculiar. Well, where do I put the amp head? Is it teeter on the, so you certainly get some jokes where people are wondering what to do, but it got them talking about us. And there's logic behind the triangle-shaped cabinet, and that is there's no parallel walls. So if we don't have parallel walls, we can break up the internal reflections of the enclosure. Further, I put bass traps in the three corners so that the wave wouldn't spiral and you wouldn't have phase cancel inside the box. And so by bringing three 12-inch speakers close together, they became effectively a point source, which in live sound reinforcement, point source arrays used to be the thing. Now we see these line arrays where everything's in a column, but a point source is also another form of an array. So my 312 triangle was basically behaving like a 36-inch speaker, but with the agility of the 12s, without phase cancellation and comb filtering in the enclosure. And the projection of sound was mind-boggling. Immediately, we got adopted by some of the top artists. We were on the Who tour. We even had Steve Miller tour with our pyramid. So if you stack the three triangles together, you would get this really unique look. Very rock star. In 2012, I designed the speaker system for Lenny Kravitz's world tour. And so there's lots of triangles, and some are bass cabs and some are guitar cabs. And so this odd shape had a purpose sonically, and it got people talking about Third Power right away. So how does this person, Dylana Nova Scott, come out with all of this stuff? And I'll just share that I had a background as a recording and touring guitar player, and also as a recording and mastering engineer. And I worked for companies like Sennheiser and Neumann. So I was trained in audio and wireless in Germany. I was also a part owner of a company called X2 Digital Wireless. We were bought out by Line 6. And so I spent a year on the team at Line 6. And so I've been around innovation, but as you climb up the corporate ladder, I started realizing I was getting further away from my personal inspiration, was what I described earlier, the emotional translation and connection like that. And the further I got into the digital world, the more I felt removed from that organic thing. And so I literally walked away from a very successful career in the digital side of the music industry. And everything I've done is analog, tubes, amps, speakers, the tactile things. I know I've talked about amplifiers, but let me talk about our Roosevelt drive pedal. And it's basically a preamp, a line driver, and an overdrive if you need overdrive. The equalization sounds like amp EQ and not like 9-volt pedal EQ. And here's why. A lot of your pedals are surface mount technology. And as I bring this into the screen here, we have hand-wired, we actually have amp components inside. These are all amplifier-grade capacitors that are handling the EQ. So those are your tone caps, and our cathode caps are here. And these are literally the cathodes that I put inside of our amplifier. And it is incredible the difference when you have a hand-wired pedal instead of something that's maybe surface mount. You know what? It takes 35 seconds to build a surface mount board because a machine just runs it through, and they just machine gunning all the parts on, and it gets wave soldered. These are hand-picked, placed in the board, hand soldered, looked at with a microscope, cleaned up, and everything's hand trimmed, hand wired. It does make a difference. And again, the reason we exist is that emotional translation and where that friction of reality really happens. And so this is a great pedal for that. It's something we make. The other thing that I do that's easy to handle is I make pickups. And this would look like an ordinary humbucking pickup. I do make single coils as well. The difference is, instead of a pickup with a magnet that spans the entire pickup, I have 3 separate chips that address each pair of strings. It makes the instrument itself polyphonic, like an acoustic guitar, in that notes seem to surround you. But this would then go through your amplifier, and I swear that 3D experience is conveyed. So if you wanted to experience the third power thing of what I do, my pickup or the Roosevelt drive is a great way to get into it. From there, this is our latest creation, and while it's not that heavy, it's a little 5-watt single-ended amplifier. It's called the Spanky Junior, and what makes it cool is it has our 6VEL technology. We call it 6VEL. What it means is you can run any output tube if it's a big bottle. 6V6, 6L6, EL34, KT66, 5881, any of that can be run on this amplifier. It's 5 watts and it sounds huge. This is an extra Spanky, and just to show you kind of how everything is hand wired, again, these take close to 10 hours to make, and this is all this is what you would see underneath a tube amp. What makes this one unique is we have a 3-band EQ, which is over here, and these little switches kind of unlock mastering modes for each band. So you could, like you might in a recording DAW, put in frequency enhancement and stuff like that as a plug-in. Here, we actually do that with analog circuitry. So you can enhance your highs, your mids, and your lows. We have a reverb and our hybrid master technology, in a nutshell, takes the sound and the feel of the amp and decouples it with how loud it is. So if I dial in my amp, I'm ready for the show, and I need to turn it down, you'd grab Hybrid Master, and everything you've dialed in about your sound, how your pickups hit the pedals and how the pedals hit the amplifier and how the EQs all work and everything, all of that stays intact. It's like turning down your radio. The song you're listening to, it sounds the same, it's just quieter. Any time period, if I could travel in time, is there anybody I would want to get my product into their hands and have them be users and players? And of course, I can think of a ton of guys and gals. I would love to have Joan Jett just clanging and singing, I love rock and roll or whatever, on just a gnarly amp like that, and just it feels so powerful. It's like riding something you're not supposed to without a helmet and just going. When you unleash your emotions through your instrument that way, that's what a third power experience is. If I couldn't build guitar amplifiers or guitar gear, what would I build? And now I am going to put us in a time machine. We're going to go back in time to the medieval Viking days and all of this and that, because I was just telling my partner, if I grew up in those times, you know what I would make? She goes, what? I said, I would be the swordsmith, because people are chopping heads off and da-da-da-da-da. Meanwhile, the sword guys, he's watching it, but he's grinding a sword on the wheel. Nobody's chopping the sword maker's head off. So that would have been my way to survive, is I would have just been the one making, being the metalsmith, whether it's horseshoes or sharpening swords or whatever, or galvanizing metal. That would have been cutting edge back then. Taking things that are metal and making them useful. So that's what I would be doing. Our final question for this: the complementary piece of gear, or what would I do? I would say, so the typical answer is I do guitar-related product, right? Everything specific to guitar. I play guitar, but actually, I think it'd be drums. If there was another related piece of thing, because again, that's where friction is happening. A stick is hitting things and we're disturbing the air in a way that a great drummer can play quietly or hard and make people climb out of their seats.